You're listening to Rebel Spirituality with me, Sam Goldfinch. Here's the truth. Wisdom doesn't follow rules. So each week we're going to explore what it means to wake up your way so you can live a more peaceful, creative and inspired life no matter your circumstances. It's time to blaze your unique path to truth. Hey Rebel friends. So for whatever reason recently, I've been talking a lot about the gift of not needing to avoid what's coming up to be felt. I had a really lovely conversation with my friend Bradley last week about are we leaving ourselves in this moment, you know? Is there something here that just wants to be felt? And are we innocently kind of dissociating? Are we drinking? Are we doing any number of the myriad things that we can do in order to avoid what's here? And I've been reflecting on it, and it's such a powerful thing to explore. And there's this question that I think is really helpful for people to sit with, which is, what if there actually isn't anything wrong? And I know for me that for many years of my life, particularly my younger years, I lived life with this feeling, and the feeling seemed to be telling me that something wasn't quite right, that something was wrong or that it needed fixing. And this wasn't necessarily even conscious. It was, I think a lot of this was happening beneath the waterline, if you like. Like it was just something that I hadn't caught sight of, but it was driving me to do many of the things that I was doing. And I can't tell you the relief and the gift of realizing that I don't have to do that anymore. When I first started seeking, and maybe it happened before this, but you know, the kind of cliche spiritual stuff in my late teens, I guess one way of relating to what I was up to was, how do I get away from where I am? Like this stuff that I don't want to feel, how do I get to somewhere else? How do I get to this promised land where I don't have to experience anxiety or whatever it might be, and just not have to feel this shitty stuff? And that energy had a lot of force in my life for a while, like trying to get there to that promised land, wherever that experience was, that lasting experience where I'd finally know that I'm okay, led me on all sorts of journeys and traveling and all sorts of retreats and thousands of hours of meditating. And so I honor it for the part that it had to play. And then at some point I realized, well, there was a new chapter that unfolded, which was, gosh, I think this is less about trying to get somewhere and more about what have I been avoiding. And as I started to realize that there's no such thing as a negative or a positive emotion, there's no such thing as an energy that is out to get us or anything like that in the system, it allowed me to really shift into this new, just to wake up in a very different kind of way. And I suddenly realized, wow, what if there actually isn't anything wrong? What if there's something that's calling my attention? What if life's tapping me on the shoulder and saying, look here? I remember reading a book not that long ago, a couple of years ago, by someone who was saying that they'd been living with this feeling of like this void, this kind of feeling of lack. And they tried everything they could. And then at some point they said, screw it. I'm just going to sit with this. At work, I don't feel it so much because I'm busy and I'm doing stuff. But every evening, I'm just going to sit with this until I've figured out what the fuck is going on. And it wasn't that long until that feeling, that experience started to become neutral. It shifted from being something that felt like they needed to get away from. It started to become neutral, and then it started to become integrated, and they started to realize it was just an unmet energy, like an unmet part of them, if you want to relate to it in that way. And it really went on to become just this beautiful expression of life. And I think for many of us, we've grown up in societies that are relatively emotion phobic. A lot of things are changing now, and people are talking a lot about embodiment and grounding. And I think that's fantastic. A lot of work in the somatic body and this kind of stuff. Amazing. I think that's great. But one of the biggest things for me, as I said a few minutes ago, was just this recognition that, wow, maybe there isn't anything wrong. Maybe I can really move towards this. I can just be with this feeling in my stomach or be with this experience in my chest and just breathe, not to try and get rid of it or to change it, not because it needs fixing or because there's something wrong, but actually just to investigate it and be open to the possibility that it's just life energy that wants to be recognized. And that's been a game changer. And I think many people are going through experiences right now, experiences of grief, experiences that they might label as anxiety or depression or whatever it might be. And somewhere hidden in there is this idea that there's something wrong, that it shouldn't be happening. And then we innocently wrap our sense of identity around that thing. And then if we're not careful, it kind of gets held in place. But actually, that's not the case. Crying, grieving, sadness, not having resistance to those things, that's where we don't suffer. There's nothing wrong. But it's in the resistance to those things. When we think there is something wrong and we need to get rid of it, then we do a million other things other than actually turn towards that thing and just sit with it. And so I was talking to someone today, and what I suggested was just taking 10 minutes in the evening to just sit with what's there, sit with that feeling of discomfort, sit with that feeling of distraction, sit with that feeling that there's something not right, not with the story, not to think about it, but to actually truly investigate it and just be with it. As I say, not to try and get rid of it, and just see what happens. Because as my friend Jamie says, feelings just want to be felt. And as far as I can tell, that's absolutely true. And that was a real game changer for me when I realised that what's here right now is the doorway. It's perfect. Whatever it is that's showing up, whether it's ecstasy or, something that can feel difficult and challenging to open to, it's perfect. That is what's here for us in this moment, and it will always be like that. And the doorway will always be here now and not in some future promised land. I think that's it. I hope you have a beautiful day. If you want to get your name on for my upcoming program and that kind of thing, be sure to check out the show notes and pop your name down there. And of course, I'd love to see you over on Substack. If you're not a subscriber, the link for that will also be in the show notes. Big love to all of you. See you soon.